Dawnlight, welcome to Forfellingness Belysning, illumination from the ancestors, guiding your path today.
Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiancé, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great-grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Good morning and happy Wootens Day to you. I hope this week is going along wonderfully. Today, we embrace the power of Wotan, or as he was later known in the Norse sagas as Odin. We also talk today about a council of elders, of being able to communicate and being able to accept advice and guidance and counseling from our ancestors. For it's truly important in our quest, if you will, for happiness that we learn and we understand this connection with our ancestors. So today we'll talk a little bit about the Council of Elders. As always, for those of you who have followed, and subscribed us on whatever channel, whatever platform, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. For those of you who haven't, now is the time to hit that old follow, subscribe button and join a growing movement of understanding a better way to obtain a peaceful mental health that can be sustained. So, as always, I want to give a shout out to my friends and family on New Reality TV, newrealitytv.com, a streaming channel dedicated to a plethora of perspectives of our spiritual journey. Hopefully, you will find something that resonates with you and that will help you to evolve to the next level in your journey. Well, today's show is brought to you by Zeal-Pet-Foods. At the hearth and on the trail, our four-footed kins, they deserve the best and most honest fare and fearless vigor. Zeal-Pet-Foods begins with real ingredients and careful craft, fueling bright eyes, steady stride, and playful hearts. Feed the bond, strengthen the pack, and roam further together. Check out their link as well as others on our website at akuulfhednar.com/sponsors, and there you will be able to identify many different of our affiliates who bring quite a powerful value to our lives. So check them all out there. Well, as I mentioned, today we're talking about the Council of Elders. So what does that mean, and why do we need to even consider it in our modern day life? Or many, like myself, may have grown up in a lifespan of not recognizing the value in our elders. Now, some people say, well, my parents were, not very beneficial. They were, for whatever reason, right? They have this. Your parents are not your only ancestors, for they had parents, and they had parents, and they had parents. The greatest, obviously, Council of Elders are those elders that are still with us here on the physical plane. Those who have traveled a weathered path and are capable of giving us experiences and value that helps us connect things within our mind. Many people also say, oh, well, I have no relatives. I have no relations still in existence or here on the physical plane. Yes and no. Yes, okay, so your physical line may be limited, but that doesn't mean anything in the much bigger picture of things. Elders have lived lives. Whether they are actually tied to your physical form or not is almost irrelevant. It's almost a moot point, for they have traveled a path nonetheless, and they possess within them this wisdom and this experience that they can convey to us, giving us that experience that we can then connect within our own minds, creating a wisdom of our own. So while the physical form relations, the physical form ancestry is super important and super exciting, and I am thrilled to always meet with mine for those that still walk the physical plane. But I don't need someone who's blood relations to me, for that's not as important as the experiences they have of life, of this existence. So they've lived through things. And so I call upon them to counsel, to help me to understand my path, to help me break down those things that are challenging or confronting me, that I can then use to benefit, to grow from, to evolve with. So, firstly and foremost, the blood elders of our physical form, obviously, our first level of experience, pulling in that experience, but all of those elders out there, including throughout your village, throughout your town, throughout your city, those elders have a life's experience that is certainly worth telling, and certainly worth bringing into ourselves, so that we can learn from those and we can grow from those. Remember, when we talk about, particularly today on Wotan's Day, I find it very ironic here, as we talk about Wotan's greatest quest, if you will, throughout his lifetime, throughout all the sagas, was his quest for wisdom. And to that point, he would go ahead and dedicate one of his physical eyes, that he may drink from the well of Erd. Well of Erd, for those of you not familiar with Norse legends, the well of Erd was one of the wells that fed Yggdrasil, the center tree of the universe. And that tree, as it dipped its root into the well, reflected in the waters of the well those experiences of all life throughout the realms, throughout all of existence. All of those life forms that had ever been or ever will be were all reflected in the pool there in the well. And so when Odin drank from this well, of course, he drank not only the cool, soothing water of refreshment, but also all of those experiences of those who were connected to Yggdrasil. So he was able to absorb those experiences in one drink. This then produced within him a collection of intellect and knowledge beyond compare, that would the legend would go on to say that Odin would rest for 9 days and 9 nights following this drink from the well, that he may process all of this. So he's taking all these experiences and he's interrelating them to all the intellectual data points within his mind and creating this level of wisdom. Now, the beautiful thing about wisdom is, as we build wisdom, we're also building this other skill that we have called imagination. Imagination is simply the forward processing of wisdom. And so it kind of injects itself into our sensory input, which is why we can sometimes imagine seeing things that we may not see, or we may contort what we did see using this imagination. So this is kind of where that all builds. When we think about elders and counseling them and receiving counsel from them, this is kind of the same idea, is that we're gaining all of these experiences that are helping us interconnect our data points within our mind, which then allows us to have a higher level of wisdom and a more powerful form of imagination. So these are very critical pieces. Now, imagination plays a fairly powerful role in what we know to be the fight or flight processes, right? So it can kind of imagine things, help highlight particular parts of sensory input that then helps us to decide whether we're going to fight or flight. So this is a very powerful and very important skill that we naturally possess and we can naturally build on and work with. So it's just something to consider. So physical elders, the physical bloodline elders, super important that we don't discard them by any stretch. They are such a value. They have such of an importance in our existence, in our evolutionary path. But there's another group of elders too. And those are the spiritual elders. Those are the elders who have left their physical form, yet still reside in the spiritual realm. We've spoken before, and we'll speak again, I'm sure, about how the spiritual realm interconnects with the physical realm. They're one and the same. This is how they're in the same time and space that we are, right? Except they just don't care about the time or really the space. They're just kind of happen to be there. They're there, and we've spoken about this before, about the atomic structure and how the atomic structure represents our physical life, and how that atomic structure, based on this idea called the atom is composed of two parts. It's composed of the physical realm, the physical part of life, and that's emotion and, of course, sensory input, physical. And it's comprised of a spiritual part, of that which is connected to the spiritual realm. It represents that with the protons and the neurons and the electrons, but nonetheless, it represents fairly accurately the ability at which we can be both in the spiritual realm and the physical realm at the same time. If you think about your body, the average 150-pound person contains about, 6.5 octillion, that's a lot of zeros, atoms in their construction. Now, mostly you are hydrogen, water, and oxygen, right? So H2O, you're mostly water. But nonetheless, all of those atoms, 6.5 octillion of them, are connected to both the physical realm and the spiritual realm at the same time, right? So our existence is in duality of these two realms. Now, life can't exist without duality, okay? So we have to have a physical part and a spiritual part. No, we have to have a spiritual part. Well, we are a spiritual part. And we take time, this thing called time, to have a physical existence. That physical existence is bonded to a spiritual entity. That spiritual entity is eternal. And then we will spend a physical lifetime in this form. We may spend others in other forms, but we'll spend them learning to control emotions. How that emotional state that we can create, we do create naturally with our biochemistry, with our bioelectricity, based on our DNA. All of those things structure the way we see the world. Most importantly, the way we interpret the world. Okay? So we interpret the world based on our sensory input, which is then guided, directed by, potentially manipulated by our imagination or our emotional state. So our moods, as we know, kind of sets the tone as to how we see the world. We're grumpy, we see it one way. We're not, we see it another way. We're sad, we see it a third way. Mad, we see it another way. And the list goes on. So the mood is super important because it's the first real manipulation, minus the imagination part, of course, of this converted energy from out here to in here. So super important that we recognize those values. And those values are guided by our wisdom. Our wisdom, of course, is that collection of experiences and intellect. When those two interrelate, then we get these pathways that are constructed between all the different datas, and that is what we refer to as wisdom. Now, wisdom, because of its very definition, isn't really based on, it can be not based on fact. It can be based on what we know, which may or may not be an actual physical reality fact, right? So this is where we must always question what we think we know. And this is where, again, the value of the council of elders is going to come into a value in our lives. As we seek these values, these elders, to provide us with experiences and knowledge, that can supplant what we already have in our heads. So we may learn things, and when we learn things, we're manipulating our intellect stacks or knowledge stacks based on new information. And we can constantly do that. We can constantly learn. Matter of fact, it's really a very powerful part of living life, is to constantly learn things, grow, and gain further and further knowledge, more relation points that can be filled in with experiences, and thereby creating a larger and larger wisdom, or a more powerful imagination. So both of those things really come into value when we talk about processing the reality before us. So, all right. So before we go much further, it is time that we gaze upon the stars, and we speak with the gods, and we allow them to communicate with us, to provide us with guidance and boundaries, using the things that my ancestors referred to as the runes. Now, the runes are simply tiles with runic letters upon them, and each letter contained a very different value. So today, I have, don't know if you can see that there. There we go, Lagos. And Lagos, of course, is a pretty, I like Lagos. And I like Lagos because it's considered the rune of dreaming. Okay? It's considered the rune of love. And it's considered the rune of unconscious mental processing. So it is imagination. So I think everything is tying together here this morning. So this is today, Lagos recognizes, as we've asked the runes about what should we look for today. The runes are telling us that we should look forward to unconscious growth. As we sleep, as we relax, and we take our moments of meditation, we're growing. We're allowing our brains time to connect our experiences to our intellect. We're building wisdom. We're building imagination. And so this is really what Lagos tells us today, is that we're really growing those unconscious strings, and we're threading them together, weaving a tapestry within our mind that we then will interpret the reality at which we experience. So it's a super exciting time and certainly a poignant rune for today, I think, as we celebrate Wotan's Day. All right, I have to take a very quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about how we can use this Council of Elders to, in our everyday lives, in our modern day lives, to make our lives better, to make our mental processors easier, and to gain this thing that we call wisdom. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
The air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me.
It's all of us.
Together.
A new
A
time.
new day.
A new energy.
A new energy. New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
Thank you so much for taking that quick break with us. And as always, I am thrilled to offer you the vision of New Reality TV, NewRealityTV.com, a wonderful streaming channel. I know you will find benefit in it, so please check it out. And don't hesitate in subscribing. By all means, look up Whispers of the Norse, and but be sure to check out the whole channel. Something will resonate with you. In addition, I want to remind us that today's show is brought to you by Zeal-Pet-Foods. Zeal, as I mentioned, on the trail, at the hearth, all of our friends and family of the four-footed variety, or more, obviously, require a wonderful and deserve a good value meal. So be sure to check out our sponsored site, which is akumedia.akulfhednar.com/sponsors, and there you'll find links to all of the affiliates who support our show. Remember, if you purchase through those affiliations, that goes to supporting our program here. So check out all of those and you will not be disappointed. All right. So, a reminder today, we're kind of absorbing the rune of Lagus, so we'll keep that in our mind this morning and as we go forward with today's energy. Today we're talking about the Council of Elders, and we're talking about taking in those experiences from those others who have lived a life. Now, are there outcomes what we're looking for? Maybe not. Maybe. Who knows? Right? But the goal is that we, as we absorb some of their energy and they retell their stories of their lives and their adventures, we can glean out that which applies to us. Now, we can also store all of that energy. And what's going to occur is down the road, we're going to come into a situation where this looks vaguely familiar, and as we draw upon our memories and we draw upon our imagination will help us to connect to those stories that we heard before. This is why it's so wonderful for us, those elders, to sit with us and retell their stories and retell the stories of their ancestors, that we may have those stories from a very young age. And then as we experience things in our lives, many of those stories, that knowledge, that experience is going to come back and serve us. So this is why the stories of the elders are so critical. So whether they're your physical blood elders, whether they're just elders, whether they're physical or spiritual, it matters very little. The idea is that we're willing to open our hearts and our minds to accept their experiences and to actually put that... My familiar is awake this morning. We put those into a proper kind of file structure in our mind, and ultimately we will see those events, those experiences come in handy down the road. So, super exciting and super important that we recognize the value of our ancestors, whether, as I mentioned, whether they're physical or not, is so critical to our existence. Now, one of the other things that really comes from the Council of Elders, and this is where I encourage us all to seek out our elders and our ancestors, is that we obtain a value of belonging. One of the things that has really occurred in my own personal life is as I discovered more and more of my ancestry and began to study and learn and grow, I obtained this very powerful energy of pride. Pride in my culture, pride in my heritage, pride in my ancestry. And that began to build and build. And it really produced within me a value, or a perceived understanding that I didn't have to measure up to anyone's bar. I started to become what I thought of as a descendant that those ancestors would have been proud of. So it became super important to me that I became a good representative, there we go, of my ancestry, of my culture, of my elders, of everything. And I brought in tons of respect for those who have lived before me. So it's super important that we kind of look to those elders for those experiential values that we can then incorporate into our own mind. Helps to kind of weave across these threads of wisdom that are stemming between the intellect and help us to retain our mental health. So take some time today to think about your elders. Remember, we've spoken before about concentrating our energy. When we send our energy to our ancestors and elders, it's returned threefold. This is one of those ways that it's returned, is that they tell their stories, their experiences, and those experiences are brought into our processing and processed that we can sometimes use right away, and sometimes they'll just hang out in our memories until we have a life's experience that then kind of has a value now to those memories. So think about your own ancestry, your own genealogy. Think about your family's history, and it may not be the shining moment of life, and you may have to skip generations because some generations may have gotten swept up by influential energies of the day. Got to put into your processing the context of time when dealing with physical ancestors and elders. They grew up in a time of society that was relevant at that time. It may not be the same today. All right, so lots of different values there. So be sure to check them out and learn about your ancestors. And certainly for those who have the ability to interact with elders who have lived, please seek them out. They have immense value in our lives, right? Because, even if you go to work tomorrow and you're trying to do a new task and someone's there who's more knowledgeable in that task than you are, then what do they give you? They give you some information. They give you some tips, right? And helps you to do that job better. So you're seeking the counsel of elders. So it doesn't have to be this big drawn-out dramatic thing. It's simply seeking the counsel. All right. I wish you the very best Wootens Day. We will see you tonight for Sporgsmall. Be sure to join us here on whatever channel you're watching us, whether it be audio or video. And we look forward to seeing you there. And I'm so excited for those of you who have joined us. And I'm very appreciative of those of you who have actually liked, followed, and subscribed us on on any of the above, I encourage those who haven't to please do so. Help us to spread this message. Help us to help people find that better mental space and become just more comfortable in their own skins. So, by all means, join us tonight, like I said, for Sporks Ball, 6:30 Alaska time, 6:30 p.m. Alaska time. There we will be. In the meantime, you can always check out our website, akulfhednar.com, and check out all of the things there is about us. And by all means, feel free to join us at any one of our public events. We do have a drum circle coming up this weekend, so look forward to seeing you there. All right, have a wonderful Wootens Day, and we will see you again tomorrow, or tonight, and then tomorrow. Love and light, my friends.
Watching Ulfhednar's Belysning, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska Ulfhednar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.